Hello and welcome to another episode of the FemiNinja Project. And I am so excited to welcome a return guest. His name is Alberto Bercich. And if you want to go back and look at his previous episode, it is episode number 105, The Truth About CBD. And today he is here with his partner, Hunter O'Connor. So Hunter and Alberto are holistic relationship coaches that help couples remember what it means to truly love themselves and one another through intuitive coaching that digs deep into the physical, emotional, and energetic blockages that have been preventing them from having or rekindling the effortless communication, deep connection, and intimacy they crave. Hunter has spent the past decade doing intuitive energy work and trauma release, as well as facilitating ceremonies with the support of sacred cacao. Alberto has been holding space for himself and his clients with the support of hemp and cannabis for the past 7 years by creating his own line of products that have aided him and hundreds of others on their personal healing journey. Well, welcome to the show, Alberto and Hunter.
Thank you so much. Yeah. We're so happy to be here. Looking forward to digging in and having a nice conversation.
Yes.
Excellent. So what an incredible story. One thing I'm looking at your bio again, and one of the things that really just hit me is that what it means to truly love themselves and one another, because how do you love somebody else if you can't love yourself? So let's start with you, Hunter. What does that mean to you? And could you explain it to the audience?
So something we hear our whole lives, right, is you have to love yourself before you can love someone else. And I think that there's a lot of truth to that. But something that I think is more important is the inverse thing, which is it is almost impossible for us to receive love when we do not love ourselves. So as we all know, even when we are sad or hurting or angry or whatever, we go out into the world and it's pretty easy for us to still be kind and give love, like to still give when we're feeling tapped. However, it's very hard for us to believe and accept and receive the love that others are giving us when we're not feeling worthy of that love. And that really is stemming from us not giving ourselves that love. So yes, if you don't love yourself, you can love someone else, but you won't be able to receive the love that you need. And so we're always coming from this empty cup and never getting it replenished. And the real place it gets replenished is within ourselves, is when we start giving the love that we're craving to ourselves first.
That's so important, but let's take it a step further. And, if you don't have that self-love, I know a lot of people, and hello, I used to be one of them, I'll admit it, of self-loathing.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely.
And self-flagellation, that is so destructive. So when you work with your clients, do you ever meet anybody like that? And if you do, how do you draw them out from that? Or even just if they don't love themselves, how do you help people realize how valuable they really are and how unique?
Well, there's a couple things. That we do. The first thing is that we want to shift the focus away actually from the heaviness of it all. So we don't really want to right away start digging up all of the stuff in the past and start digging up all of the traumas and reliving all of it, which is one approach, and it can work. But what I like to do is shift my clients into the space where each day, each week, they're adding practices where they are actively loving themselves. I tell my clients a lot, like, you need to date yourself. And this is for single people or people in a relationship.
Yes.
When you're feeling like no matter what your partner does, like, you're upset with them, it's not your partner, it's that you're feeling tapped. And the only way to fill that tank is to really give it to yourself. So like, if what you're wanting from your partner is like to do something fun with you, or to pamper you, or make you a bath or something, like make yourself that bath.
Mm-hmm.
Take a really nice walk and go slow and enjoy it, and find the space where you feel like you're your partner. And then
Mm-hmm.
anything that's coming from outside of you can be so beautifully received, because you've taught your brain now that this is the kind of love you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving it to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that. And then another thing that we do is we focus on the joy, like do as many things as you can to feel joy.
Mm-hmm.
We can focus on all the heavy stuff and all the mistakes we've made and all the traumas we've experienced, but all that does is put us back in the vibration of that.
Mm-hmm.
So if we want more joy, then we have to start doing as many things as we can to align with joy.
Mm-hmm.
If we want more peace, we have to do as many things as we can to start aligning with that vibration of peace.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side of that, we need to work a little bit on our beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference between beliefs and stories.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an analogy I give many times a week. So your belief systems are like the roots of a tree. And these things are things that are usually developed very early on in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
and can be things that were directly spoken to us, or we interpreted in our minds as such.
Mm-hmm.
These things cannot be broken down any more than what they are, which I'll circle back to. So up in the branches, we have the stories, right? The branches are huge. We can see them. They're out here in the light. We can see it. There's all this evidence. These are the stories. The stories are what we tell ourselves based on our beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And so the story might be, my boyfriends always leave. And there's ways of digging and also just intuitively following the path back to what the root of that is. And you'll start finding like, okay, so what would be the worst thing if your boyfriend left? Well, I would be alone. And what's the worst part about being alone, right? And as we travel back through this in this way, we end up coming to something like, I'm not worthy of love.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't ask what's the worst part about that. You can't break it down anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a root belief system. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not enough, right? And this is things all of us really feel at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so realizing that all of these stories we've been telling ourselves is actually just one thing. How freeing to get to shut down all these stories. And the only thing you really have to work on now is that I'm worthy of love.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, why do my boyfriends always leave me, and why are my parents mean to me, and why, why can't I get the job that I want, and why can't, right? So now we can know that we're not really dealing with any of that. We're just dealing with that root, and what happens when you cut something off at the roots.
Yep, everything else.
Mm-hmm. The branches all wither and die.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really seek to simplify
Mm-hmm.
the process of becoming your own healer.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So there are so many things I love about what you just said, and let me see if I can recall all of them. First of all, I love the fact that you don't focus on the past traumas, because we all have them. And it's almost like just a dog chewing on a bone. You never actually give it up if you keep going back and revisiting it. And I love the fact that you really focus on basically what you were saying. The self-care aspect is taking care of yourself rather than expecting somebody else to take care of you. And when that's incredibly empowering. And when you do that, you actually are attracting more care from the person that you love. And then the other thing that I just loved when you started talking, you mentioned it briefly, but I just picked up on it, was you mentioned the brain, because actually you are repatterning your brain and opening up new pathways.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We say the first part of our program is kind of called the inner reset, right? Mm-hmm. So this really, we go in and you touched on this too earlier, that our first step is just like couples come to us and we're like, that's great, we can help you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to be what you think. We're not going to dig into what your problems are in your relationship and what's going on between you and all these things. We're going to sit with you, the wife or the girlfriend or whatever, and we're going to work with you, and we're going to sit with you, the partner, and work with you individually.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to do that for a while before we come together and start trying to work on the things with both of you involved.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
excellent. Because pretty quickly we figure out that there's almost no issues in the relationship. Only in the individual relationship with the self. There's always a relationship with self issue. There's almost never any actual issues in the relationship.
Right.
That's pretty mind-boggling, but it's absolutely true, right? And when you realize that, it's like, oh, it's on me. But that's kind of empowering as well, because it gives you the opportunity to change.
Yeah. Well, now it's no longer like if my partner would, right? Mm-hmm. It's going from, well, if Berto would just communicate better with me, then I wouldn't feel so frustrated, right? Mm-hmm. To I wouldn't feel frustrated if my worth wasn't so wrapped up in what Berto has to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of Alberto,
Yeah.
let's switch and go
all day.
No, that's fine. You're doing great. That's awesome. It's great information. But I wanted to get your wanted to ask you, Alberto, because all right, obviously I met you several years ago. It's actually even before the pandemic here in Colorado, and sampled your products, and your products are amazing, B&B Botanicals, and you can talk about that a little bit later. But so how in the world, because the last conversation that you and I had, you were in Michigan, and there you go, your lovebirds. You were in Michigan and just, really relaunching your business and everything there after you'd moved from Colorado. And then you contacted me just recently, and it was like, wait a minute. Your partner? I hadn't heard about this. So how did the two of you meet? And how did you go from having this wonderful company, which you still have, the B&B Botanicals, to being a relationship coach? I mean, it was like, wow, obviously we haven't talked in a while.
Yeah. Wow. Where do I even begin on that?
We love getting to tell our love
story. It's amazing.
Okay, go ahead.
So to pick up a little bit where we left off, I came back to Michigan to do all the CBD things, which are great. I love the products. I love helping people with the products. It's been a huge part of my own journey. To me, it's step one of my healing is my relationship with the hemp and the cannabis plant, and how it opened the doors. But like I just said, it just opened the doors, and I've explored so many different modalities and energies and practices since then to deepen my own healing and to deepen my own journey of the self. And through that, I really have come to a different mindset about how products are absolutely incredible. Plants are incredible tools. Different types of medicinal mushrooms are incredible tools, but they're tools that we use, and it all comes from within. The empowerment, the self-love, the showing up how you want to be comes from within. It's been the most beautiful awakening of my journey, and that's how I met Hunter. We met at a cannabis expo here in Soaring Eagle Casino in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. And I was just going to do some guerrilla marketing. I had been back in Michigan not very long, maybe a couple months. And Hunter had a booth set up there, and she was vending her products.
Which has nothing to do with cannabis.
Right.
Oh, yes. We're going to go back to your products after Alberto has his little spiel, because it's very, very fascinating. Okay. Sorry, Alberto. Continue.
Yeah, no problem at all. So I go to this expo, and I'm doing my thing. I'm doing my marketing and having a great time. And on my way up to Soaring Eagle, I just had this incredible feeling inside of me. I just like, this is amazing. Something just amazing is going to happen this weekend. And of course I thought it was business and money and stuff like that, because like, that's just, you know, oh yeah, I'm going to do great here and make a bunch of money and stuff. But the reality is it was Hunter. And so we were up there. I'm just going to break this down real quick because I could spend 4 hours just on this whole thing
Well,
alone.
like I said, I don't have to go anywhere until 5 o'clock this evening.
Cool. So, I go up there, do my thing. I'm marketing, I'm meeting people, I'm doing networking, giving out samples of my product, talking to a lot of people. And I really didn't see Hunter the first day. It was a 2-day expo. So I had a hotel, and I met, Darren McCarty of the Red Wings there, and we were having a great time. And it was one of the first events like post-COVID that people were gathering, because this was 2020. Or is it 2020 or 2021? I don't know. I think it was 20.
I don't know what time.
Yeah, I think it was it might have been 2020, but it was the first event people were gathering again. And so I was having a great time. And after the expo, there was like a VIP after party kind of thing where it was continued networking. And so that's where I was doing my thing. And I met Hunter on the dance floor. Just coincidentally, like I was dancing by myself in the tent, which is not the dance floor, talking to a bunch of great people and medicating. And I ended up on the dance floor next to Hunter, and our only interaction was she said, "Thanks for joining us." And then that was it. Like, it was just, we danced, we had a great time. I didn't see her again for the rest of the night. And then fast forward to the next day, I am doing my thing, continuing networking. I'm just, just about done with it. And I just am strolling by, and I hadn't seen her booth the day before. I had walked these floors 100 times, I felt like, days. And then, like, as I was walking by, it just hit me like a bolt of lightning. It was crazy. Our eyes locked, and it was like the strongest magnet you've ever felt. Like, I just went, and I was like, stopped dead in my tracks and went right up to her. And I was like, "What is all this? It's great to see you again," because I recognized the face, and it was really the eyes. It was really the eyes that just blew me. It's like I've known her for lifetimes. And we just talked and talked. We talked for like 45 minutes at her booth, and she was like, "Do you want to go outside?" And I was like, "Sure." But then people came up to her booth, and I went across to some other people that I had known and talked to them for a little bit. And eventually we had time, and we went outside and just continued talking, and it was just mind-blowing.
And then Berto asked if he could kiss me.
Oh.
And I said, and then he kissed me anyway.
Which totally, I'm just gonna preface this that is totally not my.
We really support consent.
Yes, 100%.
But really, I did give him my consent energetically, which is not really consent, but it was meant to be. Like, it was just,
and it was just, like, totally out of my norm completely. And it was just like the spirit was talking to me, just like, kiss her, just kiss her. And there was so much magic around that weekend. It was wild. And so that's how we met, and we've been like pretty much inseparable ever since. I had, I had a market the next day, a farmer's market to pop up at, and she was like, "Well, you should just come over and let's hang out a little bit," because there was so many like synchronicities.
It was wild.
It was just mind-boggling.
And on my side, right? So my experience of this, that's Berto's experience. That's what he thought was happening. What happened for me, we'll just start at the dance floor. I was dancing with a bunch of my friends, and like, it was really funny because we were in Mount Pleasant, and the only people on the dance floor were women from Flint, Michigan, where I'm from. And there's like 300 people out there and we're the only ones getting down, right? And I'm like, this is why I love Flint. So I was having kind of this moment about it. And then I did a like little spin, and in the distance, I see this guy dancing. It's like one of those, like a huge event tent. And all these people are standing in there talking and drinking and like being boring as far as I'm concerned. Like there's live music, there's great live music, and you're all standing in a tent, but in the middle of that tent of people standing still was a guy dancing. He was the only one dancing. And that was it. That was like my only thought. I just kind of like appreciated him and kept dancing. And then I did a turn and he was right next to me. And that's why I said, oh, I'm glad you joined us. Right? Because I had just noticed that he was the only one dancing over there. And that was it that night. And when he came up, he was like, oh my God. I was like, oh no. When I saw him, I was like, oh no. Like, he's one of these guys that is like so beautiful that he's going to open his mouth and ruin it. Like, I'm like, I don't even. And I also was in a space, like I was in a very like strong space. Like I had just gotten a place that was just mine and my son's, and really I was in a deep dive of just really being my own best partner.
Which we both actually were.
Yeah, we both were. And I was like super not desiring a relationship, certainly not seeking one out. And so whatever. So he walks up and I just start telling him about my products, and then I just felt something, like I felt an energy literally come into my body, and I looked up at him and I was like, what are you doing? And he said, I'm not doing that.
Wow.
And then I said, fuck. And I sat down in my chair and literally was like, oh no. Like I just knew, like right in that moment, that like I couldn't just brush it off. I knew that it was like really important. I mean, I mean, the fact that he understood my question when I said, what are you doing? When he literally wasn't doing anything, was wild. And yeah, we've been literally like, I mean, we've probably spent like maybe a week.
6 to 10 days probably apart.
Wow.
And it's beautiful. I mean, it's just beautiful. We do all the things together.
Yeah, I mean, we still operate our businesses.
Yeah.
We still do it, but like we always come back at the end of the day together, and it's just.
And somehow we do so many things together and still really, really like each other. We love each other, but we also really, really like each other. We have so much fun together.
Yeah, we do.
That is really important. The liking each other is really important.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So to get from that expo to where I am now.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I just made a note of that. It's like, okay, so what happened then, and how was this transition going from that, expo and promoting your B&B Botanicals to becoming a relationship coach with your partner?
Week one.
Yeah, she told me almost immediately that we're going to be relationship coaches. And I was like, no, like I got this thing going on. You have your business going on. Like they're both beautiful businesses. No, like, and no way it actually happened. So she was so right. She was so right. And what she had seen and felt is true. And it's what we're here to share through after the expo. Like we deep dived into a relationship, and both of our, backgrounds very much we make products and stuff, but we're students of energy, I would say. Very tapped into the energy of things, how things manifest in the world and how things just happen for a reason. And continue to do my B&B things. She was doing Love and Honey. She broke her back in a car accident like 2 months into our relationship. So like we went from, I mean, we were dating, we were having fun, getting coffee, seeing each other, dancing every Wednesday because that's like one of our.
It's our babe day.
That's our babe day.
It's babe day.
We go out dancing every Wednesday at this club called the Golden Leaf here in Flint, which is absolutely incredible, jazz music. And so we were having a great time, and then all of a sudden this happens. She gets into a car accident. I'm at a market in Birmingham, Michigan, which is like 40 miles away, and she calls me, and she's crying, and I just got into this accident, and I was like, okay, I gotta go. So I just packed up all my stuff and left. And I almost beat the cops there because it was just how it happened. And I'm saying this to say that it got very real, very quickly. She was bedridden. She couldn't do anything for really
some months,
2-3 months.
Wow.
And she has the most wonderful, now 6-year-old child named Sage. And so that was a moment of like, are you really into this? Are you really committed? Do you really love her? Or like, are you just gonna go do your own thing? And I knew I had to be here for her because there was nobody else, and it's not just because of that, it's just because I just genuinely love her so much. And to see her go through that, and her house was put up for sale from the landlord there was so many things that
within a week my landlord told me you have 30 days to move out or buy the house.
Right. So
and he basically knew you just had this car accident and you were like laid up.
Yeah. Right. And so and on the other side, right, like I just want to say this one thing, that what I was going through when that happened was all of my baggage being thrown in my face. I am a recovering people pleaser. I am a recovering, I never ever ask for help. I actually ask for help all the time now. It's so nice. It's so nice. And you know what? No one feels burdened by me. How nice is that? But I had to go through like this shadowy, like, oh my God, right? Like, I'm going to be a burden. He's going to leave. He's like just getting to know my son, and now he's having to step into like a full parental role. Like, I cannot expect that of him. Like, any single young man would be so freaked out by this situation. And like, the more he took care of me, the more I felt like it's only so long before he like throws this in my face, or it's only so long before he holds it against me, or it's only so long before like I'm not giving anything to him and he's like, I've had enough. And it came up in our space, and I was like pissed. I was like, don't do things for me, like I got it. And Berto was like, no, you don't, please lay down. And it was so hard for me. And then eventually I finally got to the space where I said to him, sorry, I'm just really scared to accept help. Because when I've accepted help in the past, then it's been like used against me that they helped me. And and it was just really beautiful because I really truly had to surrender to being helped. I didn't have an option at all. Like, I couldn't lift something that was like 10 pounds without being in excruciating pain. So I had to really accept it, and I had to come to a space where I knew that it wasn't dangerous. And obviously it wasn't too much to ask, because here we are. Yeah.
The achy muscle rub came.
Achy muscle rub.
Very much during that period of time.
Yeah.
Lots of massage.
So I just want to go back to, I mean, it's so amazing how those old patterns, those old habits, those old messages, and experiences that you had before, that it never really worked out when you had to ask for help, how it does kind of take our voice and how it impacts us if we don't come to terms with that. So when you did realize that was happening, I mean, how did that impact either like your relationship with yourself, even more so than your relationship with Alberto.
Yeah. I mean, what I had to realize was that I was just as worthy of the help as all the people that I have endlessly helped. Like, I'm that friend, you know, I'm that friend. Like,
yeah, I
you
know
need
her.
something, like, call me. I will drop everything. I will be there. If I say I'll be there, I'll be there. You know, like, I'm that friend. So, but I haven't had a ton of experience of having those types of friends. And so, for sure, I was still holding on to some belief that I wasn't worthy of that same kind of support. So I had to just, I really had to not just accept help. I had to accept that I was worthy of being supported, like, of just truly being supported for there was no benefit to Berto. I mean, obviously, like, us being together, right? But there was no benefit to Berto to drop his life, basically, and full-time take care of me and my house and my child.
So
yeah, well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, your life, and then, but like, he wasn't living here at the time,
right?
But he was living here, like, during those months and stuff. Like, he was here, and being like, I mean, what happens now is I almost never get to that space of burnout like I used to, because I know that I'm worthy of asking for help. And I know that I'm worthy, more importantly, of receiving it. And so I ask for it. I no longer feel afraid to ask for help. I also had to go through the space of, like, needing help is not weak, but I didn't really have to decide that, right? Because there was no arguing with that. Like, my back was broken, and, like, I guess that's physically I'm weakened, right? But mentally, I wasn't in a weak space, but I had to ask for help. So, like, it was, like, just laid out for me, like, not asking for help is not strong. It's stubborn, and it's ego. It's ego. Like, we don't have to do everything ourselves. We can ask for help. And this is a huge thing. And especially for women, we do it all. We do it all. And then some, you know? And so yeah.
I want to go back to just what Alberto kind of just slipped in at something about the achy muscle rub.
Yes.
So I want to go back to that and to the products. So I want you to talk about your products, and then Hunter, I want you to talk about yours as well. So Hunter, you know, I mean, Alberto, obviously I am a client of yours. That's how I met you those years ago. And gosh, that was August of 2019. I do remember that because my sister was visiting from Michigan, and she tried some of your product. And the stuff really is pretty amazing. And of course, I was, you know, I'm such a doubter, and you probably even saw my face. Like, right, this is yeah. Because my husband's knees were so bad too, because he was really struggling with his knees at the time. And we, you know, he says, here, just try it and walk, you know, rub it on your knees, and only one knee, walk the length of the show, which, you know, it wasn't very, it was just like a block long. And by the time we went the end of the block and back to your tent, it was like, okay, we want to buy this stuff. So tell us about your products. And I still love them.
Yes. So still my number one. It's still my number one, the achy muscle rub. It's unbelievable how much it helps people in so many different ways. And, you know, the more I learn and the more I dive deep into it, it's beautiful. It's because pain is an emotion, you know, and it starts in the mind, and it's you know, our nerves send a message from the area that's hurting to the brain. That's like, this something's wrong in this area. And the medicine of the achy muscle rub, all the beautiful plants, all the beautiful extracts that are anti-inflammatory, organically grown, they're all beautiful. They feed the skin what it needs to do to heal and to function at its best, and reduce the inflammation with the arnica and the CBD. But it's really just sending that message to the brain that it's healing time now, and this is here to help. And it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And I wanted to touch back a little bit on how we got from the products to the relationship coaching. And it's just, long story short, our relationship has brought all the shadows and the light out, and
Mm.
we hold the space for each other to move through that and to deepen our connection. That's why we're called the connection coaches, because
Mm-hmm.
true connection is what heals. True connection to yourself is what heals you. True connection to another is what breeds the best relationships, whether it's with your family, friends, or your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of our relationship. We have gone through so many things and had past traumas be brought up, and
Mm-hmm.
into a space where it's lovingly accepted
Mm-hmm.
and communicated with ease and growth. Like the growth that can happen even when we do get into arguments, even when we do get into fights. Like a lot of people have such a negative view on that because it's never going to go good. It's just something that's going to keep happening.
Mm-hmm.
But really, those are
productive.
spaces for growth.
Mhm.
Those are ultimate spaces to get to know your partner better and how to move through there and not have that happen again.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we're here to just, help change the focus, help put your attention on, instead of what's wrong,
Mm-hmm.
how do you want to feel?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We want to feel good.
And
we
what's
want
right. And what's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and the products, both of our products are full supportive
Yes.
of this business and our practices with clients, couples, and
They're tools. They're tools. Our products really are tools for connection.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
They can be. And even if it's just with yourself.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what for me, my company B&B Botanicals was my self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
In the very beginning of, it was me making the products for myself because I was in a weird space mentally, and I was also very active, and I loved skiing, and I always fell. I would hit jumps, fall. I've always been into the extreme sports.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always taking falls. I was always doing quote unquote dumb stuff to most people, but it's fun and I love it. So that's why I do it. So that was my self-care, and I wanted to share that with the world. It's a beautiful thing to love on yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can bring that into your partner. You can give your partner massages. You can
Mm-hmm.
give them some supplements that'll help calm their nervous system and just feed their body what it needs
Mm-hmm.
to function at its highest level. And same with the cacao, which Hunter will touch on later. So
Well,
I love
if I can give just a quick testimonial for the achy muscle rub, which I use all the time as my moisturizer, because and doing extreme things that other people probably think are stupid. As you know, I do pole, and my legs were getting so beat up. I mean, the bruising was absolutely so bad that I thought there must be something wrong with me,
yeah.
And
No,
then when I
that's
started using the achy muscle rub, I mean, I don't bruise anymore at all. And I'm able to do a lot more techniques that were really difficult and too painful for me to be able. I mean, if you're hanging upside down by one leg, you're hanging on for dear life, but it hurts so bad, but the pain level is just, it's really tolerable, and the bruising, and my skin feels so soft, and I
Right.
sleep better.
So
yes.
wins
Yeah.
there. It's beautiful. Arnica is such a beautiful thing for bruising, and of course the CBD as well, and interacting with the endocannabinoid system and
Mhm.
the reduction of the inflammation and the balancing of the body at a cellular level, the homeostasis. So it's a beautiful support. And I thank you so much for the testimony.
Yeah. And I mean, I it's like the only thing that helps me.
Mhm.
I mean, so I was like, the back, like when I was healing initially from the accident where I broke my back, it was helpful, but like there was obviously nothing really that was gonna like fully take away the amount of pain I was in.
Right.
Like it's a massive, like acute situation.
Mhm.
But as anyone who has a bad back injury probably knows, it's very easy to re-injure yourself after something like that. And I do a lot. And it's usually doing like nothing. Like the last time I was literally walking across a parking lot. So but it's like it literally is like I can barely move I'm so like, it's so tight. Like my muscles are just like so tight. Muscle aerobic is like the only thing that like literally in 15 minutes I can like get up and do what I need to do for my son, which is a massive blessing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Once you have an injury like that, the muscles are still guarding the area and trying to protect it, which, thanks for the protection, but loosen up a little bit, right?
Yeah, calm down, please.
Yes.
We're just walking.
So let's talk about your sacred cacao, because I had never heard of that before. I mean, I know I've heard of cacao and, cacao powder and stuff. And of course, from somebody who thinks I'm a physical therapist who hates exercise and thinks that chocolate is food, because it is. So when I just saw that, it was like, oh, we need to research this a little bit. So I did look it up. So tell us how you got into the cacao and what you do with the the facilitation of the sacred cacao, because I know the two of you do that together. So, and then tell us a little bit about your, what was it, Love and Honey products?
Yeah.
Okay.
So cacao, oh my gosh, I could talk about cacao for days. So yeah, my website is called Love and Honey Wellness, and you can go there and get ceremonial grade cacao and also a couple just supportive ritual type products like intentional oils and things like that, because again, cacao can be used in a ceremonial way, which we'll get to in a second. But cacao, so ceremonial grade cacao is processed differently than what we all know as the superfood cacao. It is a superfood. It's like the most incredible superfood. But this thing has happened where it's became a fad. And so it's in all the health food stores, and it's there as 100% cacao, 100% cacao powder, right? And what's tricky here is it is 100% cacao because nothing is added, but it is 50% of the cacao because they take the fats out. And right, because it's a powder. And cacao has that lovely, rich cacao butter naturally present. So they remove that to have cacao powder, which is easier to use, if you want to say that. But unfortunately, all of the incredible benefits and compounds and all these things that we hear about cacao being amazing for are in the fats that they are removing. And so a lot of people are trying the 100% cacao from the health food store and are not having anything like the experience when you have ceremonial grade cacao. So ceremonial grade cacao is never heat processed. The fats are still intact with each other, and it's actually just stone ground. The whole plant is stone ground and fermented in the sun. So as hot as the sun gets, that's as much heat as it gets. So all of those active compounds that can do things like boost our happy hormones, combat anxiety and depression, bring more calm because of the high levels of magnesium and calcium. It's a cardiovascular stimulant, so it helps you do your heart help it do its job easier. And then it's chocolate, right? So it's an aphrodisiac and it's delicious. And it's so creamy naturally because it has all those fats in it. And so it's a cardiovascular stimulant in the physical. In the metaphysical or the spiritual, or however we want to go there, it's a heart opener. So this is what makes it a beautiful experience in relationship, whether that's with yourself or with someone else. So you prepare your cup of cacao, which is it's just the cacao and hot water. You don't need to add milk. You don't need to add and sweetener if you want it sweetened, because there is no sweetness at all. It's very bitter.
I figured.
But this is sacred plant medicine. This was used in the Mayan and Aztec cultures for anything important, anything sacred to them. Births, deaths, marriages. Cacao was a normal part of the ceremony around these things. Also around spiritual healing and spiritual journeys and stuff like that. And so I make it very important to really honor the plant, And when we make our cup of cacao, we can take that cup of cacao into our day with whatever intention we set.
Mm-hmm.
And so if our intention is to be productive or make a lot of content or really just love on ourselves today, or for our hearts to be more open to whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is there for us to receive, you set that intention with your cacao. And then it facilitates that heart opening experience. And so it's very supportive if you're doing yoga, if you're doing some kind of artistic endeavor, if you're doing any kind of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very supportive thing. And so then when you're in relationship and you're using it, you both have a cup of cacao, your hearts are open, and now that's the space you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Short and sweet, right? That's the space you're coming from now, is a space where your heart is open. And we like to, when we have couples in cacao ceremony with us,
mm-hmm.
We go through different connection practices, and we touch on some of our tantric practices that we work with. Yeah, we go into connection and tantra and some sacred sexuality stuff with our hearts nice and open first with the cacao.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. As far as then setting the intention with your cacao, cup of cacao in the morning or whatever, could that intention even be just, to have a restful day, to not make yourself crazy? I'm a little bit like that, hamster, going in the wheel and just running. So sometimes it's really hard for me to just kind of turn myself off and relax. So can you do that?
Yes. I mean, you can set any intention you want. And of course, you might not turn off, but you'll turn in.
Well, that's kind of what I meant.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And sorry, I'm really like, words are very important to me. So yeah, but it is really, cacao is a sacred plant medicine. It is not dissimilar to psilocybin, ayahuasca, all these things. It's not as extreme of an experience, but it is still a plant medicine with a spirit. And so it will support whatever intention you set. That's kind of how it moves. If you want it to be an energetic experience and that's the intention you set, maybe you want to like drink cacao and sit and be with your partner and maybe like give each other some massages and maybe really get into a deep intimate space. It's going to support that. Maybe you want to really celebrate and have fun with your partner and go dancing. It will also support that elevated state, the grounded or the elevated. It's so intention based. But then there are the compounds, right? There are the compounds that like, it's the highest magnesium per serving you can get from anything on earth, plant or animal. It also contains calcium, iron, and the bliss molecule, anandamide. So it is going to feel good in your body, and it is going to give you the benefits of all of those vitamins and minerals, which also helps us balance our hormones, which also helps us balance our emotional state and our mental state. And it's just a beautiful way to love on yourself.
Okay,
it's like
this is a random question. But because when we're talking about the cacao, and the oil in it, do you have a product where you actually extract the oil and it can be used topically?
No, I mean, it would be cacao butter. That's what would be like, that's what that would be. The oil I use is either jojoba or sunflower oil. My intentional oils are not from the same plant as cacao. But they're very supportive. It's a trigger. Smells are a trigger. So every time you're setting an intention, you are also using a fragrance. When you smell that fragrance, your brain will go, I know what that is. I know what this is. When I smell this fragrance, I have this intention. Like, it's the vibration. It's matching a vibration. And the way I make my oils is very intentionally. And they all have like a name, like let go or release or something, right? And I make these very slowly and intentionally. I don't use any essential oils in my products. So I do it the old way, where it's oil in big jars and plant material, and it sits in the sun for many months.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are my intentional oils. They're made from real plants, and all the plants have, right? All the plants have these associations and correspondences to what they support, and on all the levels. And so I really take all of that into account when I'm trying to make something for a certain space.
When I was a little girl, I was 5 years old and playing with my two older sisters, and it did not go well. Everything was fine. My oldest sister had me by my ankles, and she was sweeping the floor with me, because I was much smaller than the two of them. And it was great fun until we went past the heater that had a tiny piece of steel sticking out, the corner of steel we didn't know. It ripped through my leg. So it cut me all the way down to the bone. I mean, I was 5 years old, a very skinny child, and I could see there were even like layers of fat peeling back. And it's like, oh, I didn't, how can a skinny child have fat in their leg? But anyhow, I ended up with 11 sutures, 11 stitches, and a great big scar on my leg, as you could well imagine. And my grandfather, who was from Eastern Europe, actually brought over a hunk of, something that looked like wax or hard butter or whatever, and told my mom to melt it, and they would give it to me, and I would rub it on my leg, and it was cocoa butter.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible for healing scars.
Well, still have the scar, but it's a great conversation starter.
Yeah. But I also bet that the scar would be much worse. That's without the cocoa butter, the scar would be much worse. Yeah, it's amazing. Cocoa butter and shea butter both.
Well, and especially too, as I was so small, and then as I was growing, the scar did not get really stretched out or heinous or whatever. It was supported by something. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of that. But the other thing I wanted to ask you, something that you said that I think it just is really important to touch on, is when you said that with plant medicine, every plant has a spirit. And some of the listeners who are listening to this right now might think, wait a minute, how can plant have a spirit? And in some of it's not even my martial arts training. I did a lot of ballet classes. I studied for 5 years with a woman who was really into Tai Chi, and she was a holistic healer, cranial sacral therapist, and actually was really into bamboo. And she had us playing in ballet class, with bamboo sticks, and talking about how, because it is from a living plant, it's a living thing, and talking about the spirit and the relationship that we would have with the stick. And I thought, okay, this is a little out of my realm of, it's a little too woo-woo for me, but it was amazing. And having that, it got to the point where I had my stick in the car, and it would travel with me, and I would just reach over and touch it, because it was almost like it was either supporting me or a companion or something. And maybe that came too from my martial arts background. I don't know. But if you could talk about that, because I think that's very fascinating.
Yeah. And I think this is probably a good place for me to go back to what you actually asked me, was how did I get into cacao? Right? Which was my meeting of the spirit of cacao, really. And so I had two dear friends who are a married couple, and they are yoga teachers and facilitate cacao ceremonies. And at the time, the wife was pregnant, and at a certain point in her pregnancy, she was like, I cannot lead the yoga and stuff. I can't do any of this anymore. And they asked me if I would take her place for a while. I don't instruct yoga or anything. So we actually ended up changing the way the ceremony was working, because it was me and not her, right?
Of course.
So I started facilitating just as kind of an assistant, and really the first experience I had with cacao was obviously before I was facilitating, but I could not believe how much I felt without feeling intoxicated. I didn't feel intoxicated, but it was my heart was open. I don't really know how to explain it more than that. Like my heart's always pretty open. I'm pretty like that, but I mean, this was like, I could not believe how much emotion I could feel. And I was just amazed. Like I was doing a normal, like a practice, a movement practice that was really normal for me. But when I did it with cacao in my body, it was like a fully different experience. I'd been doing the same practice for like, I don't know how many years, 10 years maybe. And so then I started facilitating ceremonies with my friend Corey. And I got to witness the spirit of cacao and how it was moving in each person's body. Because when you're facilitating, you're really lucky because you get to witness everyone's journey. So I'm sitting at the front of the room and watching, and at the beginning, always we go around and we set our intention as individuals. And so I know what everyone has said their intention is, and then I get to witness how that shows up in the space. And it's amazing that nobody's intention shows up the same, right? No one is having the same experience. They're all being led through the same things and guided through the same things, but they're all having completely different experiences based on what they called in for themselves. And that was the first time I really understood that plants have a spirit. Right? And like, it doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't make sense that everybody's like, this person over here is like, cannot stop smiling. Like they're having this joyous experience. This person over here is like releasing and sobbing.
Right.
But but this person is not having a different experience in the physical space than this person is. Right. And so I was like, there's something to this. So then I started really having a strong daily ritual with myself and cacao. I think this is the most beautiful way to get to know a plant, is just on your own, right? It's on your own. And so I was very intentional with really sitting with it for a while before I drank it, really offering a lot of gratitude and always at the beginning, my intention was to learn more about the spirit of cacao, and to maybe through that learn about the spirit of myself a bit. And so we did, and I had a daily practice, a daily sit with cacao for many, many years before one day I sat with cacao and this woman called me, who was a friend of mine, and was like, I'm having this women's circle. And I was living in Northern Michigan at the time, really following. It seemed like a crazy idea to me to move up there. It was very isolating. I was very isolated. And I had reached out to a couple people in kind of like the holistic space there, just trying to connect. And I got connected to this woman, Lynette. And she called me and she was like, listen, I'm having this women's circle. And what if you brought the cacao? And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, I don't want to just bring it for us to drink. I can't do that. But what do you mean? And she's like, no, I want you to take over the women's circle and like take them through a ceremony. And I was like, I haven't ever done that. I don't know if I'm supposed to do that. I have to like ask the cacao. I have to ask her if that's okay. And so I was like, well, think about it. It's yours if you want it. And so I went home and I made a ceremonial dose of cacao and I drank it and I laid on the floor and I was like, is it okay for me to share this? Like, have I been
initiated?
Have I been with you? Have I been with you like long enough? Have I been consistent? Have I honored your spirit? Like, are you okay with it? Do you feel like it's okay? And I fell asleep, right? And then I woke up and I had gotten like 3 or 4 messages from some people that are like from where I'm from, that were all talking about this feminine power rising, like the feminine is so attacked right now, and all this stuff. And all of a sudden I just heard like, it's for the women. It's only for the women. Not that cacao isn't for men too, but I knew that what that meant was you can, but only if you share it with just the women right now. And so that began a decade of me facilitating ceremonies for women, with the sacred spirit of cacao supporting us. And in ceremony, we do things like movement and stuff like that to really get our energy really moving. But we also do a lot of deep work together, trauma release, which is beautiful to see in an entire group of women. We do practices that are outside of all of these stories that we've been taught as women to be quiet and be dainty and be all these things. Like screaming at the top of our lungs, right? Just screaming until like until your body is like, I don't have another scream. Which is beautiful. I love making people cry. I make people cry for a living. That's what I do. Because it's a beautiful space. It's a beautiful release. And when something really comes up, often tears come too. And this is like, I want to make you uncomfortable. If we're working together in ceremony, if we're working together in relationship coaching, if we're working together with one-on-one coaching, I want you to be uncomfortable. I want you to feel like you're going to jump out of your skin at some points because you've been avoiding it this whole time. That's what you have to do. The only way through is through, and it's not comfortable. If you're comfortable, you're not growing.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's kind of my journey with cacao. And
wow.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna just put in a little blurb in there because
you got a blurb.
It's the same. I feel like it's the same for all the plant medicines. They're just different in how they work. And I think it's so important to honor the spirits of the medicine that you're using. And I think what we're seeing a lot, and especially in the cannabis industry, is an over glorification of it, and it's being taken away from the medicine, and it's being now marketed and big business and all the things, which that's great. That's great that it's plant and it's building the spirit, but I don't think it's being honored for the medicine that it is. And I think there's a word that we just learned, which I've been searching for a long time, which is pieta. Pieta, which we learned from another person that's in the cacao space, where if you don't really honor the spirit and be grateful for your communion with the spirit,
you suffer.
You do suffer in a way, and whether it's indigestion or your guts aren't happy or you feel anxious, and that's a manifestation of maybe you're going too fast, maybe you're not paying attention, maybe you're using it too much. And I think I see that. I've experienced that in my life with the cannabis plant. I've been in practice with it for a long time, 7-8 years, and there were points in times where I was overdoing it, and it spoke to me in the form of anxiety, extra anxiety. When at one point it had helped me with my anxiety. My first experiences with the spirit, it helped me balance and feel better, and that's why I was like, oh well, I need more and more and more to keep the balance going. Well, that's not true.
Yeah, and with cacao too. I mean, cacao can literally, like, you can have no anxiety after a while of working with cacao, but you have to give gratitude. She's a feminine spirit. Mama cacao, they call her in the native cultures and the indigenous cultures. And so a big thing is gratitude. And there's been days where I made my morning cup, and usually I'm very intentional, but maybe I was in a rush, and so I didn't take a moment, and I just drank my cacao. And then I felt not good. I felt overstimulated. I felt very much like the spirit of cacao was like, oh, you think you can just use me then?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna mess with you.
Yeah.
I
Well,
was
that's
on the
definitely
receiving end of a woman who feels used by me.
right. Right. I was going to say that's definitely feminine energy, isn't it?
Yes, no, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. It's also the most nurturing, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're heartbroken,
Mm-hmm.
if you're feeling really down, if you're feeling really low,
Mm-hmm.
Mama Cacao is a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
support for that space. She is like a warm hug, but you have to acknowledge that she's supporting you.
Mm-hmm.
You
Well,
have to
I have a quick question for Alberto. What so Hunter said that the cacao is a feminine spirit. What is cannabis? I'm curious.
Oh, I was just thinking about it too.
Papa.
It's both. It's
Mm.
both. And
That's
it's
true.
literally expressed in the plant all the time. There's hermaphrodite plants. I think that the healing the cannabis spirit is very as feminine. What people think of as, you know, medicinal cannabis, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like is feminine. I think hemp is very masculine. It's industrial. It's growth and sustainability and
Mm-hmm.
industry, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense. It has both aspects to it. And I think that's beautiful because I feel like in my world, I try to balance the masculine and the feminine within me all the time. And I think it's no secret why it's been my plant from the beginning, you know. I think it's just beautiful. I think the way that nature just speaks to us and shows us, we think we overthink a lot of things when it's just right there, and it always has been. It hasn't changed, and nature is our greatest teacher. And I am so grateful to my experiences with all the plants.
And really, though, what we're realizing is like all the plants are beautiful support, but that's not the root.
Right.
The plants are the branches, right? The plants are the branches.
I could talk to the two of you all day long, but we're going to have to wrap it up. So I'm going to have Hunter go first and let the audience know where they can find your products, where they can find you, how they can get a hold of you. And then I'm going to ask Alberto to do the same for his product.
Okay. So if you guys are interested in chatting with us about any kind of coaching, about your relationship, about your marriage, about your sacred intimacy space, you can reach out to us at theconnectioncoaches.com. There is an easy space to book a free clarity call where we just get to know you and you get to know kind of what we do, and you can see if it's a good fit for you. We're also The Connection Coaches on all the social media platforms. And then if you're interested in the support of the cacao spirit, you can purchase some beautiful sacred cacao that is from Peru, from Altalaya, Peru, on my website at loveandhoneywellness.com.
Excellent. And Alberto.
Perfect. If you're looking for the Achy Muscle Rub or any of the other beautiful hemp CBD products, you can find them at bnbbotanicals.com, at bnbbotanicals on the social medias. Hunter spoke about the connection coaches, and I just want to wrap it up on that a little bit because it's so important. I just feel like it's so important for people that are ready to get uncomfortable, ready to like empower themselves and show up fully in themselves and in their relationships and have fun while doing it. We have a lot of fun. Like it is work, you know, and internal work is always going to be work.
And it's messy.
And it can get a little messy, but we love to have fun, and we love to have fun with our couples and our clients. And it's time to have, you know, more fulfilling relationships at all levels, and it's time for connection.
Yeah.
Is the word of the
if you're feeling connected to yourself, to your community, to your partner, there is so little space for all these other things that we're fighting about to actually become an issue. You know, the communication is important and the sex is important and all of these things are important. But if we aren't feeling connected, all of these things suffer. So that's why we focus so much on connect. That's why we're the connection coaches. The deep connection is the most important part. And that comes in spaces that are juicy and fun and sweet and sensual.
Emotional.
And emotional and vulnerable. Vulnerable. So yeah. Chat with us if you want.
Yeah.
You know where to find us.
Yep. And we'll be having a retreat coming out here towards the second half of the year. It's kind of in the
drop in the retreat info, Berto.
I think it just came in for that reason.
Yeah,
so.
we're gonna do an amazing couples retreat this summer in Costa Rica.
Ooh.
So follow us if you wanna stay tuned on getting rolled out. This is the first place that's hearing about it at all. So
wow. Oh,
you
well,
heard it
we're
first.
honored.
You heard it first here at FemiNinja, right?
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, thank you both so much for being here on the show today. I have really enjoyed it. Alberto, it's always wonderful to talk to you. Hunter, it is lovely to meet you. And just thank you for all the incredible information and the great stories. And I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you
so much.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
And everybody, thank you so much for listening. As always, I appreciate you as well. Please do download this episode, share it with your friends, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. I would really love that. And remember to love yourself so you could love others and have that relationship and the connection, not only with yourself, but with other people, your community. And I really believe deep in my heart that that is our way to have a much better, safer, happier, and more peaceful world. And that is the way of the FemiNinja.